Hi there, welcome to Hey Sound Guy, a podcast where I'll be peeking behind the curtains of the wonderful world of music. Each week, I will be talking to sound engineers, musicians, and industry professionals, and we'll have a little chat with them and share some fun stories from the road, so stay tuned. Now, my next guest is a good friend of mine. I met him when he was playing drums for a band called Seramic. We've been on tour together for a while. He's a drum skin maker, he's a tutor, he's a drummer, he's an engineer, he's a fantastic guy. It was a lot of fun talking to him. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my good friend, James Yates.
Hello, Tins.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Very much appreciate you making the trip.
Nice.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, glad to be here with your excellent and strong coffee.
Oh, good, man. Glad you like it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good.
Yep, it's much appreciated.
Jesus, there's no space for anything.
I always like coffee.
Yeah, nice, good coffee. Let's close this down. We can see that. Right. How I like to start normally is if you can introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do and how you got into this lovely world of music.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is James Yates, and it is at this point, I don't know, what do I do? So I have my own studio. I'm a recording engineer, a mixer, producer, whatever. I don't know, whatever that kind of means. Before that, I was a drummer. I still play the drums now. Hang on a minute, I don't really know. Lots of different stuff. I mean, you know what it's like. Tons of stuff.
Well,
and I lecture as well. Yeah, keeping busy. And
right. Well, so let's start at a point. What did you get into first? Were you did you start the drums first? Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. So let's start with that.
I started playing the drums when I was 9.
Nice.
And I was watching Top of the Pops. And there was just a pop band and they had a drummer. And for some reason it just struck me that you could do that as a job. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. That's great.
Fantastic. Why not?
And then, battling against everybody.
Can you remember who the band was?
Well, so a couple of years ago I did try to work out who it was. In my mind, I thought it was Eternal, the girl band, and they had, for some reason, a band. But I've since trawled the internet
to find the
episode, and they never performed with a band, so I don't actually know.
It's funny how memory works, right?
Yeah, it is. It's really weird. But it would have been if I was 9, it would have been maybe 96, 97 maybe, I guess.
Right.
No, hang on, earlier than that. 94, 95, I guess. So, I don't know. Someone else can find that footage.
I bet, yeah. And just let you know.
Yeah, let me know. Yeah, that would be it.
Great. Right, so you started, you said, this is it, I'm going to be a drummer.
Yeah, I played the drums. And then, just kind of...
Did you take lessons?
I did. I did. I took lessons at school. But the teacher at that place wasn't great, so I did a lot of sort of self-taught kind of stuff and
Perfect.
kind of just getting into different, I guess, albums and stuff and drummers and stuff and kind of getting into that. And then we moved from Taunton in Somerset to Southampton for my dad's work, and there I got lessons with a guy whose last name I can't remember, but he had a place called the Drum Garden. There's a guy called Kevin, and he was great. And then it was at that point that he suggested that I go and join the National Youth Jazz Orchestra.
All right.
And it was at that point that I was like, cool, I'm going to be a jazz drummer.
Right.
And then that didn't really work.
No.
Because I'm not
a jazz drummer.
I'm not a jazz drummer.
Gotcha.
No. I do like jazz, but I'm not a jazz drummer.
It's a different discipline, isn't it?
Very much so, yeah. And I think now that I look back on it with reflection, I think I was always more obsessed with the sound of drums than the actual
style.
Yeah, or technique. of like learning technique, and I would learn technique just to kind of forward playing, but never like sit down and, I don't think, like practice kind of.
Well,
You know,
I mean, some
stuff.
of it must have stuck in somewhere because you're a fantastic drummer, man.
Oh,
You're
that's very kind of you to say.
No, you're a rock solid, great,
Well,
fantastic drummer, man. I
that's-
mean,
yeah, it's nice of you to say.
I know this firsthand because I saw you drumming for a good long while when we were touring with Ceramic. And,
Yes.
yeah, really enjoyed your playing.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say.
Tell us a little bit. So you tried to get into the National Youth Jazz Orchestra, and then that didn't work out.
Well,
but
no, I
then
played with the National Youth
Okay.
Jazz Orchestra for like 2 years, 3 years, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, and then Bill Ashton, Miles' dad.
Mm-hmm.
There's a throwback
Yeah.
to a previous episode. Asked me to join the first band on percussion, and that for some reason didn't really like. There was kind of cross wires. And
Okay.
it didn't really happen. And then I kind of I applied. Then my parents moved back from Southampton. It's a little bit harder to get to London from Taunton, so it kind of like put the nail on the head kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Like
Right.
travelling up
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
Nijo.
It's a bit of a ways.
Yeah. And then I had like a gap year in because I didn't get into uni anywhere at the end of like sixth form college, and just basically worked in a pub and just thought, oh, I'll get some recording stuff and just like
Make
because I
sounds.
didn't know any other musicians, so it just seemed like really logical that I would just like record myself because I didn't know anyone else who was into it, like none of my friends were into it.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll just do that. So I bought this is this is the stupidest way that anyone's ever got into engineering that you're ever going to get.
I don't think so, man.
No,
Everybody's
wait
got
for it.
their-
Yeah,
okay.
I haven't told you yet. I bought Pro Tools because it was called Pro Tools.
Right.
Therefore, I thought that must be what the pros use.
Well, I mean, you weren't wrong.
I wasn't wrong.
You weren't wrong. You know, but yeah,
Yeah,
fair enough. It says it in the name.
it says it on the tin. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, so
That's
I
probably what
bought
they thought when they named it that.
Genius, isn't it? They're like, yeah, let's name it Pro Tools. And so I bought the M box, and then just
Was that 7.4 or something like that?
it was 6.2.
right. With
No,
the old-
6.4. Yeah,
old sort of like
Yeah.
off-white and blue
yeah,
stand-up
Yeah.
boxes. Yeah.
yeah. It was £435. I bought it from Digital Village in Bristol.
Oh,
which
right.
isn't there anymore. I
No,
remember it.
Does Digital Village?
No,
they're only
does not
online now, aren't
exist.
they?
Yeah, they moved to like Germany or something.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember getting the train and then getting the bus and going to physically pick it up.
Those were the days.
Yeah, man.
Those were
And
the days.
actually, I kind of missed that kind of thing. It was
That-
like it was such a.
It's an event.
It was an event.
It's
exactly.
an event. If
yeah,
you have
yeah.
to go, like, I remember having to go, because I grew up in a small town,
Mm-hmm.
right, where we didn't even have music shops. We didn't have a shop that sold CDs,
Right.
right? So when CDs kind of, reached us, because we were like 20 years removed from the rest of the world
Yeah.
almost. When we'd go to Pretoria, it's like a whole day trip,
Yeah.
So then you'd be like, oh, I've got a little bit of this money. I've been wanting to get this album forever. Then you go to the CD shop, the album record shop, and buy it, and you've got this physical
Yeah.
thing, and the whole day it's an event,
Yeah.
and it kind of meant a lot more than just like click there. I've got it, yay!
Yeah, sure.
There's a reward without the actual having to earn it.
Yeah, I think so. But
I think that's probably one of the biggest problems with I love the internet and it's great and it's done a whole lot of good things for us, but it's definitely, I think, maybe made people a little bit more lazy, and also the instant gratification,
yeah,
and also attention spans have gone a little bit because of that.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
there's no, like I said, there's reward without earning it, and there's all this immediacy, and so I don't know. Well, anyway, so we were talking about your drumming. You bought Pro Tools because it said Pro Tools,
Yeah.
and how did you you bought a Mac then?
no, I
take it as
bought
well?
a PC.
All
to
right.
begin with, and then
They were running on PC back then as well.
Yes.
Yes,
And
they did.
I was using like a cracked copy of Cubase beforehand, or like as it used to say then, try before you buy.
Yes,
And, and then I did like some like youth project at a studio, and the guy was like, if you want to make money from it, I think you should invest in it, which I think is really good advice.
Yeah.
But then for my first microphone, he advised me to buy a mini disc microphone, which is the worst advice anyone has ever given me.
Microphone.
Yeah.
So you can record straight onto mini disc.
Yeah.
What were you going to record with that? Just voice?
I guess, or like drums or something.
Okay.
It's like a little stereo mic kind of thing.
Oh, gotcha.
But,
those ones that plugged straight in.
Yeah, exactly. Rubbish. Awful microphone.
I hope you didn't spend too much money on that.
It was £120, I remember that as well.
Right.
And then I just remember, trying to record my drums with it and playing around with stuff.
Not happy.
No. And then just sort of getting into that and sort of... But not like... There was still... I think this thing that's really interesting now with the internet is that there's no... You can find out so much information like really quickly, and that didn't exist. Like
it didn't.
You had like... It's
definitely helped us in that way. You can,
exactly.
You can quickly check up whatever you want.
Totally, yeah, and you can find out like how do you mic a drum kit, or like, and there's 10 million videos on how to do that, and that didn't really exist. So you'd get all of these like I'd read like Sound on Sound or Tape Hop and things, and just get all of these like, I don't know. They describe it, but you're just like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, you're gonna have to imagine it and try it out.
And even pre-Spotify as well is like people would talk about albums that you couldn't get in this country, and so you'd have to like seek them out and like try and if nothing else, the music industry owes me a living because of the amount of shit albums I've bought over the years to try and decipher some kind of recording technique, or like there's one song that's good on an album of like 24 tracks, all of those. Do you remember? Well, I mean, I guess it must have been the same in South Africa, but the import CD. So we got these like CDs that were import CDs.
With one track of an artist compilation.
Well, no, it would be an album that was only released on like the American version of Universal.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you'd have to pay like £35 for a CD or something,
or like the live in Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
Imported, so it's double the price.
Yeah, and that's something nowadays I don't even think about now, and it's amazing.
It's definitely broken down the borders.
Yeah, I think so.
In that sense.
I think so.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's a great tool. It's if it's used correctly.
Yeah.
I think although people do not always use it correctly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of just anger and shit flying about. But
you don't need that.
Best to just steer away from it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt. So there was that, and then I went to university in Leeds to study popular music studies, which is basically just studying drums.
Right.
And then...
Was there a performance aspect to it as well?
There was, yeah. Right. So it was like... The way that they... Because I think the thing at the time, I had tried to go and study jazz at Trinity. I think quite rightly they were like, this is not...
It's not for you.
Not for you. And I didn't really like super mainstream stuff, and I didn't really know of the kind of hinterlands between those two areas, and the way that they sort of build the course in Leeds was you can kind of do a bit of everything, a bit of it, all styles, and I thought, that sounds great. And then when I got there, it was basically like training you to be in a function band. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just not my bag. And it's not really what I wanted to do. But fortunately I met lots of other people that also felt the same way, and at the time Leeds had a pretty amazing like DIY kind of, I guess you could say like punk rock kind of scene, but more like post rock bands, and so
Right.
I'd sort of formed a band with 3 kind of uni mates, and then we basically just played gigs around Leeds, and then did a little tour around the UK and stuff, and that was really awesome.
Nice.
And I think the whole thing about Leeds that really changed me was the whole DIY ethic of it. I really like that. I think it's really powerful and really useful that you can just, I mean, like, you've started doing this, like you've just kind of gone, I'm going to do a podcast, therefore I'm doing a podcast kind of thing, you know. So that, I think I like that, and I still like that to this day.
I'm a firm believer in that, 100%.
Sure,
If you want to do something, do it. Do it. Can't wait for opportunities. You got to fucking make your own, mate. It's just what it is, you know. I mean, there obviously I thought about doing this for a while, and it took a while to kind of get there, and I took that time thinking about it, structuring it in my mind, making sure that, like, when I jump in, I'm going to have the idea is going to be there, and it's going to be ready and set, and I'm going to kind of know how I want to present it and how I want to release it. And so but there are the three stages of creation: is the thought, the word, and then the deed. You know, if you think about something enough, you're going to start talking about it. You talk about it enough, you're going to start doing it. You know, it's just it's like a self-motivation even. You know, and it works both ways, positive and negative. You know, if you beat yourself down or something, you know, it's going to be the thought, and then you're going to start saying these things, and then you're going to start feeling like shit. So it's best to try and keep positive things, you know, the majority of your thought process, and the majority of your deeds, and your whatever you do, try and keep it all positive. Then, you know, things are hopefully gonna go in the right direction.
I kind of always find that the thing that maybe you think is going to happen with something is never the thing that ends up happening. Kind of, it always leads to, there's like a kind of, maybe that's just me.
No, 100%.
Like, when you sort of start something, you think, oh, maybe the point of the destination is here, but then you end up going somewhere else that you'd never conceived of to begin with.
No, I think to definitely embrace the journey, you know, and be in the now of it, and not have, I mean, you've got to have some certain goals, but don't make it the goal, you know. Imagine the direction.
Well, I think you can look past things that are kind of interesting or enriching if you're kind of focused on but that's not to say it's difficult, isn't it? Because if you can kind of end up driving around the roundabouts.
Like I said, I mean, you should have some sort of end goal, and, you know, or a vague sort of destination where you want to go, and keep yourself sort of motivated to keep doing this. It's just, you know, and when maybe sometimes, like you said, the road changes, and then, you know, just embrace that as what was supposed to happen, you know. For sure. It's this old life it's going to go the way it's going to go, and absolutely, you just got to fucking get on the bus. You just got to ride along, hang on, you know, with both hands and your teeth and all, you know, just bite onto a wheel or something.
For sure.
Man. No, that's so you started with a band and touring with a band, and then were you recording these guys as well?
We made an EP in my basement with my friend Naz Parkash, who's now a very wonderful post-production mixer at Molinaire.
Right, shout out.
And shout out to Naz. We made an EP with him, and then we sort of played some gigs and did like a little tour around the UK, which was really eye-opening, because we played to like nobody and things like that.
A man and his dog.
It was good to kind of do, and I loved it. I thought it was really great. And then uni kind of finished, and we thought, well, we had this kind of idea of like, well, let's move, because one of the guys, Carl, in that band, the band was called The Pattern Theory. One of the guys in that band, Carl, was from Berlin, and had sort of thrown away. I don't know. I mean, we still talk now, obviously, but I can't remember who came up with the idea. But we basically decided to move to Berlin at the end of uni, and with a view to kind of moving to a bigger city and maybe, I don't know, just for something different.
Why not?
I can't really remember the kind of ethos behind it.
That's the way the stream went.
Yeah, and so one of the guys in the band, Danny, didn't want to come, which is fine, and so we decided to do it as a 3-piece. So we moved to Berlin in 2008, and then just like tried to work it out, and we did. So the idea was that we were going to make an album. That's what we wanted to do there, and I don't think it's unfair to say, maybe, hopefully, if Carl and Lucas, the other two, are listening, I think we massively overthought it, because we didn't know what we were doing really, and just spent way too long making it and being, you know, perfectionistic with it, and and then, yeah, at the end of all that, I moved back to the UK.
How long were you there?
It was about 2 years. It was about like maybe like 18 months or so, like September to June the following year, kind of thing. With coming back in between, and and sort of, you know, trying to navigate that. And it was really good. I think it's a really good thing to do. And also, we were now in modern times, I realise how massively fortunate it was to just kind of very naively and pretty stupidly go, let's move to another country. And that'd be a completely possible thing that you can do without any kind of legislative organisation surrounding it. Yeah. Which hopefully that will stay true. Yeah.
Well, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, the free movement, free trade is a great thing.
It is. It is a wonderful thing.
But maybe there's a little bit too much centralization of power. Perhaps with the whole thing, so I don't know. Who knows what'll happen. Yeah,
I don't know.
So then you came back.
Yeah, I came back, and I was kind of, you know, staying with my parents in Taunton for a bit, and it was like, you know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, because I wanted to play in a band basically, and I think we discussed kind of making, I can't really remember the thought process behind it, but it was basically like, I want to learn how to record drums properly. And I had it in my head that to get a good drum sound, you needed a Uri 1176.
Okay.
I don't know where I'd got that from. It was just like one of those like little... Again, somebody
had dropped a nugget and you were like, that's
yeah, and it just latched. It stayed on. Probably like some Led Zeppelin thing, like Glyn Johns at some point said, I use a Euro 11. So I had in my head that was what was
needed,
what was missing.
That would be your Pro Tool.
Yeah, if I had that, then all would be well. So I basically just wrote letters to loads of studios in the kind of vicinity, like in Bristol and Bath and all that sort of stuff. Pretty much just saying, I just want to like learn how to, you know,
use this thing,
put mics on drums, and just how to do it. And I basically just emailed every studio that had a Euro 1176.
Brilliant.
And
you're like, well, this is my limit.
Yeah. And one got back in touch with me. It was really fortunate. It was a guy called Ali Chant. He has a studio in Bristol. I don't know what it's called now, but at that time he had a studio with John Parrish, called Toy Box, which was like it is in like a basement of a kind of big Georgian kind of townhouse in like near Cabot Circus in Bristol. And he was just like, yeah, come down and like you can just like hang out on the weekend and sort of just
get your hands dirty.
Not even. I think I only made tea, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of back in the day. That was the natural sort of starting point, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think that actually stood me in pretty good stead. And then I wasn't really interested in I guess like pursuing a career as an engineer or anything like that until that experience, because I'd never really been in a big proper studio in that way, like because everything I'd recorded had pretty much been pretty DIY and like, you know, and it basically just kind of life changing. He's to blame basically, and it was great. And I just did like a few weekends, and then I was like working in a cinema in the week, and then I ended up getting a job to begin with teaching drums in Stratford, and then I sort of moved into teaching music tech as well,
right,
and doing that.
Fantastic.
So that sort of brought me to London, and then that job went a bit, I mean, that's a whole podcast in itself, the way that went.
Okay.
Maybe another time.
Okay.
And it was all like 0 hour kind of thing. And it basically became a point where I couldn't do it anymore. It just was like, this is going to kill me.
Yeah.
And so I was staying with my friend's parents, who really gracious people, because this job was so precarious.
You could sometimes not earn any money.
Well, yeah, or there was always this kind of threat that you'd be fired, and it was just,
oh man, that's terrible.
It was a bit crazy, and so I never wanted to, like, you know, sign up for rent or something. And I built like a studio kind of thing in my parents' garage, which was really nice of them. So I'd like go back on the weekend, do work, then come and teach for like 4 days, 3 days or something. And anyway, so that sort of there was 1 week where I just couldn't go in anymore. It became like an end, a full stop. But I still had the return train ticket, so it was just like, I remember sitting with like my mum, and she's like, what are you gonna do? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And so I went on everybody's favourite website, Gear Sluts.
Right.
The worst named website in human history.
Some good info on there, but a lot of fucking assholes, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. And I'd kind of got, well, a bit of both. Like, I'd met some really...
No, like I said, it's
I wasn't super...
Good and bad, but the bad guys are just real fucking dicks, man.
Yeah.
I remember asking once just some advice when I was working in the studio about how to do something. I was doing the restoration of old reel-to-reel tapes from the 70s, right? And they hadn't been stored properly, and there was tape bleed and all sorts. So I was working in Isotope RX7 to clean these things up. Best fucking software.
Love it.
Anyway, and just asked a question on there because I'm a fucking newbie.
I would not be able to finish an album without.
Mate,
there's always one thing.
It's just so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Sorry.
No, you're. And just asked a question on there. Got a couple of nice replies, and then there's always this guy. I've been doing this. If you can't do it, then maybe you should get someone else to do it. There's a lot of us here who's not got any work. I'm like, hang on, bro. Did you not read the question that I posted? I said, I'm working on the studio, and this is part of my job. I'm just trying to better myself here.
Yeah.
And then he got all like argumentative and like, man, just go away.
Yeah.
Just go away. I'm not gonna get into an argument with you. You know, you've got. He started with, I've got a 40-year career, and I'm like, congratulations on being born before me, dick.
It's like, dude, your mum's basement has excellent Wi-Fi.
Brilliant. Yeah. Put some fucking pants on, man. Go outside.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry. So yeah, it's you were talking about. So you got on Gear Sluts.
Yeah, I went on Gear Sluts, and there was just an advert. They used. I don't know if they still do. They used to have job adverts on Gear Sluts, and I'd tried in the past to kind of do it, and it never came to fruition. But there was this one where it's like assistant wanted, and it was like this list of things, none of which I could fucking do. But the guy was a drummer. I was like, okay, cool. So
Maybe
phoned.
you can relate to him.
Yeah, so I phoned him up, and he's like kind of chatting on the phone, and like, look, this isn't really a job. And I was like, oh, it's cool, because it was like November. It was just before Christmas. I still had the kind of month's paycheck, so I figured like, fuck it. If
got something to fall back on.
Yeah, if like worst case scenario, I just do it as like an experience, and then I get to Christmas, and then I go get a office job or something. Who cares? Yeah. And so he was like, I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine, no worries. I'm in London, so I've not got anything to do. And he's like, cool. Well, why don't you just come by the studio at like 4:00 tomorrow? And yeah, so I was on time.
Good.
And that I remember him saying that impressed him.
Well, I bet your on time was 15 minutes early, because I know you.
No, well, it was, but I waited outside, and then at 4:00 on the dot, I knocked on the door, and yeah, we just ended up like chatting about kind of stuff, and then this guy was called Emre Ramazanoglu. Well, he still is called that. He hasn't changed his name.
Not that you know of.
And he's like, yeah, like, I don't know, he just does so much stuff. Like, he's a mix engineer, and he was just kind of starting to get more and more into the kind of, the big mixer league of like mixing pop records and things. And but he was also doing tons of other stuff, and like he used to do. So it was a kind of studio complex in a place called Tickle.
I've heard of Tickle.
Instrument Hire, which is in...
Yes, I know Tickle.
Queen's Park.
We rent from them sometimes.
Yeah. Well, not anymore, because they've gone now, but yeah.
Well, we did.
You did, yeah. And so there was a whole kind of bunch of producers and stuff, and then, yeah, basically like that meeting went well, and yeah, I went back the next day, and then the next day, and then it
just
kind
kept
of...
going.
Yeah, and he taught me tons and tons of stuff, and then through him I kind of started assisting other people and kind of sort of getting into that. And I think I came at it quite haphazardly, I think, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know about working as an engineer. It wasn't something that was on my radar really, and I think that kind of naivety of it probably was quite helpful in some ways, but probably quite annoying in others, because I just didn't know just shitloads of stuff. Basically I had to learn it. And so one of the things that he wanted to do was make a sample company, and so one of the requisites that he had was that someone would know Contact. I didn't know Contact at all, so I just sort of like faked it. But I'd made sample instruments before, a bit, like just for myself, so I kind of knew about it, and just weirdly discovered I have this real knack for doing it, and ended up doing that with Emre as a company for a couple of years, and yeah, and then from there, like, so that there was like a little courtyard of studios, of which I basically would just assist for anyone who was there. Like, I kind of just end up just being there like all the time. And so I used to assist to Steve Mackey from Pulp, had a studio next door. I'd help him out with stuff, and like when I lived in Berlin, I'd worked as a handyman, because I'm quite practical with stuff, and So I used to just like do shit around people's houses, like
Great.
paint
Why not?
walls and like anything to kind of make
Make rent.
it kind of make rent and make like the progression of life possible. You know, and then there's a producer called Sam Dixon who did a lot more kind of poppy stuff. He did a lot of writing with like Sia and he wrote for Adele's last album, but that was after I worked with him. I taught him everything he knew. No, that's, of course, that's a joke. And I worked with him on some things, and like and so it was like really interesting, like learning from those very different kind of production and engineer kind of styles, and different approaches and stuff, and just kind of soaking it all in, and then it was really interesting as like a little kind of Coyote producers, because they're kind of like the tiers of the producer.
Yeah, they were all there.
Yeah, and there was a guy called Jimmy who, you know, he had the big studio there, and
Jimmy Big Shoes.
Well, no, and I sort of, that was kind of where I wanted to record real instruments and stuff. That was always my kind of goal, because I like doing that.
Yeah,
and,
man.
One day I think he wasn't there and the BT guy was going to show up, so I basically just let the BT guy in, and then we got chatting, and he was like, "Oh, I've got this recording thing. Do you want to assist?" And so I ended up doing that with him.
Wait, Jimmy. Sorry, the BT guy?
No, not the BT guy, with Jimmy.
Right.
That was my way in of like chatting to him. Yeah.
Right.
It was my like
what's this guy got to record?
And he had like so there's a guy called Jimmy Hogarth, who's a great producer and songwriter and all that sort of stuff.
Nice.
And guitarist.
Right.
He's a really I don't think he gets talked about a lot for his songwriting, which is like fantastic, but I think he's a really awesome guitarist. I think it's like
one of his unknown fortes.
Yeah. He like, one of the things that I never really thought about before was like good rhythm guitar. Like, I don't know, he's a really great rhythm guitarist, like a really great like acoustic,
it's a thing, man.
Really a thing, and I never thought about it before, like seeing him do it and seeing it done really well. Yeah, he's really fantastic. But and then so he had like a really cool studio with really amazing gear, so like a Neve console and a Studer 800 tape machine.
Did you have the Yuri?
He did, yeah. He had a 176.
Passed.
Well, he didn't have a Yuri. He had one made by a guy called Pom. I think that's how. Maybe he did. He had like the Universal Audio, the one that's mixed with the 610. Is it like the 6176? It's like the compressor and the preamp kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yes.
An 1176.
That's right. Yes.
But by that point, I'd kind of given up on that kind of stipulation. Dream. Yeah. And then so my first job with him was doing stems for mixers, like through his outboard overnight. So
just
basically
record them out.
Yeah, print them through the desk and through the compressors and stuff, and it was really cool. And I basically just continued doing that for a while. And I also assisted a guy called John Kelly, who was another great producer. Really kind of old school. He came up assisting George Martin and Jeff Emerick, and he knew his onions and kind of like he was really good at like, they were all kind of, they were kind of like, I don't know, the 4 wise men of production, 5 wise men of like kind of all different kind of things, but like really kind of I value each of them, as a kind of holistic thing.
Yeah, an entity onto their own.
Yeah, exactly. And just,
everybody's got their own way and their own thing and their own sort of like, little tips and tricks here and there, and the more of those little nuggets you can pick up,
totally, yeah,
pile yourself a fucking mountain of gold,
Yeah, I think the thing that sort of unifies all of them is they're all really patient and they're all really nice. Because I did do some sessions with people who had maybe, breathed in a few too many of their own farts, and
oh yeah, right, yeah, you get those,
and had been, I got shouted at, and just people treating you like, I don't know, not in a way that you should treat other people.
Yes. Yeah.
And
it's not the way forward, man.
No, absolutely not. And so I always respected them all for that kind of thing, that they would always be kind of pretty
patient,
nice.
Doesn't take much. Doesn't take much, man. It really doesn't.
No.
But I think for some people, it's an actual effort that they have to, to try and be nice. Like me, I think
with all of those guys were all, at least in my book, I think of them all as kind of masters of it. So there's nothing to prove. I often think that kind of behaviour comes from
dick measuring.
Yeah, to a certain extent, or like maybe not measuring, but kind of, Billy Big Balls,
absolutely.
kind of
absolutely.
stuff.
For me personally, I think that stems out of a kind of, it's almost a jealousy thing, but it's also more sort of like being threatened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's insecurity.
They're
for sure.
insecurity.
Yeah,
right. Where they've achieved all these things, and they're so reputable, and they're also, but inside of themselves, they just insecure, and anybody who looks like they've got maybe just a little bit of talent is a threat. Or somebody who looks like they know what they're doing and know what they're talking about, and then all of a sudden, oh no, and then there's got to be this one-upmanship all the time, and but unfortunately, those people do exist, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can just rise above.
Yeah,
sure. It's it's just it's the journey that we take, but. So you got in with those guys, and then you were working there doing stems, and
and
what was the next sort of thing?
Like, so Jimmy's like bread and butter was basically like songwriting. He's a songwriter first and foremost, and frankly doesn't want me being in the back of the room being awkward when you're trying to write music.
Gotcha.
So I would only really assist him when he'd have like a band session kind of thing, like, so he'd kind of
he's already laid it out,
and then he'd record a band, and then we'd kind of invariably do it to tape, and kind of around that time, like the sample company that me and Emre had started kind of was going okay, and so it was just basically about like doing different things, and I was working on my own music as well and messing around with that, and that was a lot of fun. And basically, like, I think at this point, like, the greatest gift that anybody ever gave to me is Jimmy. He's a family man. He has 3 kids, and he was like, I'm not going to work on weekends, so if you clean the studio, you can have it on the weekends, mate. So
golden ticket.
It was unbelievable.
There you go.
So like, it was kind of pretty incredible, because one of the things that was really, like, he did really very well in his career, and basically sort of it was at a time when you could still buy a lot of really great old gear, and so he'd basically curated this sort of selection of really fantastic outboard microphones.
Nice.
And just being able to like go in and just sort of basically like mess around with it in a way where, like, sort of try all of these things that like you'd read about, like the Beatles using Neumann U67s on guitar amps. Like, okay,
Nice. Okay.
what does that sound like? All right, so I'd try that, and then like try.
And you had the mics at your disposal,
Yeah.
which is just fantastic.
It was ridiculous.
Wow.
And just like trying things like recording to tape and learning how the tape machine worked, and kind of getting more and more into that. And then we do kind of tape sessions and do stuff, you know, like syncing it with the computer and things, and then printing it back in. And
Nice.
I think all throughout that time I wasn't really sure of what I exactly wanted to do, and it was really good. Like now I can really see the benefit of like that, just kind of like that period of basically just like
just doing it, just living
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
just, you know,
exactly.
being in the, like we said before, just kind of being in the now and just soaking it up, what this experience is bringing, you know, instead of always, I mean, it's good, like, I'll just say it again, it's good to have goals and
Sure.
sort of like a prize then,
Yeah.
but when something's happening, be there and soak it up. And if
Sure.
if you've got a good thing going, you don't have to go and chase something else. Just ride it out and then see where it goes. You know, so there's, like you said, now you're seeing the benefits of having been there and spending that time and giving up your weekends. And I mean, well,
Yeah.
not like weekends matter much to us, but you know,
No, but it was great because he'd like drop in and just be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then just sort of like drop a kind of thing of like, "Oh, you know,
if you try this,
Nigel Godrich does this," and you're like, "Oh, okay." Kind of like, and it was really interesting to kind of play around with all of that stuff. And I still kind of draw on that now, like, and I think it's really interesting as well because one of the things I think that's really fascinating is that it allows you. I mean, you must have this as well when you're appraising gear, when you're working at like Ronnie's or what have you. But like, if you haven't paid for it, I think you can make a really good critical appraisal of something.
mm-hmm.
Because
yeah, you're not
biased. Like, oh, hello.
what the hell is that all about?
Yeah. If you've not dropped $5,000 on something,
Yeah,
you know, if you spent £5,000,
it's a confirmation bias as well.
you're going to be like, this is the best microphone, which I think is a lot of the navel gazing that happens on gear sluts.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, yeah, I mean, if I've spent $5,000 on something,
I'm not going to say it's shit.
no,
Because otherwise,
or
it's
it'd
like
be very
cool as
difficult
well.
to do so. Whereas, I think, you know, so that was really good for that. And then, kind of, I can't quite remember how it sort of happened. I basically just started. I was assisting Emre, and then Jimmy every now and again, and Steve and stuff, and I sort of branched that into assisting other people like Mark Ralph. He would have he had a studio across the way, and I did a few things with him. And then at some point, I think I just moved into just doing the stuff with Jimmy, and it was at that point that I moved into teaching at BIMM.
Right. So when was this?
2013 maybe.
Gotcha.
And they just sort of moved buildings, and
Were they BIMM then already, or were they Tech
were
Music
Tech
School?
Music, yeah. And
because BIMM back then was Brighton Institute of Modern Music,
correct, yeah.
and then
so
they changed the name to match the.
Yeah. So they unified everything. So I moved into just teaching, kind of like what I'd done a couple of years before, like 3 years previous in Stratford, like diploma, kind of introduction to Logic kind of thing. And I really enjoyed it. And so I'd do the odd kind of session, and I'd started doing my drum heads as well. This is weird. You never think about your life
things
until you're kind of. I don't think about this timeline because I'm thinking about moving forwards. I'm not thinking about like. It's hard. I'm like, I remember
I did
this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I had my drum heads as well, which I don't know if we can talk about that.
Of course, why
on a
not?
sound
Yeah,
engineering
100.
podcast.
No, it's about this is about sound engineers, musicians, music professionals, music
Yeah.
industry professionals, anybody that's working in this industry and whatever it is that you do. I mean, I
Okay.
do a shit ton of other things that
Yeah.
are not even related to sound, like making the biltong, building things,
Yeah, for sure.
making cakes and stuff,
Yeah.
doing the archery, and it's not. It's all good. It's all It's we're here to talk about you and get to know you a bit better.
Okay, well, yeah. So at some point, I had done a session with Emre. This is pre-tech music, by the way. And he had this old John Gray drum kit with calfskin heads, and it sounded phenomenal. And he was like, "Oh yeah, but I don't know what I'll do when the heads break, because I don't know anyone who makes them." And then in the same week, did a session with Jimmy, and he had this freaking weird German marching bass drum with like 23.5-inch heads that also sounded phenomenal. And he said the same thing, and I thought, yeah, I could do
Let's
that.
make myself useful here.
Yeah, so I had this plan. I bought some vellum off eBay. So the raw material is called vellum of calf
It's
skin.
stretched calfskin,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, tanned, stretched calf skin. And then just like watched a couple of YouTube videos and gave
God bless
it a go.
YouTube.
And yeah, man, for sure. And the first one, which I believe Emre still has, was an absolute, by my standards now, absolute car crash. Of a
Calf
drum
crash.
head. Yeah, calf crash. But it did work. That's the thing. It worked well enough for it to be good. But if you looked at it, it looked...
Like patches?
No, it just like the tuck. So you tuck the head under the hoop and round,
Okay.
and it just looked messy by my standards now.
Right.
And then it was kind of a quiet month, one of those, and
You just started working on it.
well, Jimmy got word, and he was like, "How much for you to do my whole kit?" And I was like, "Well, how much do I need to pay rent?" "Oh, I need to earn an extra 200 and something pounds." So I just said that amount, and he was like, "Yeah, cool." I was
Done.
like, "Okay," and then it just sort of like,
Snowball.
yeah, like in a really kind of haphazard way. I think if I'd planned it a bit better and been a bit more like decisive with it, it probably would have made actually doing it as a company a little bit easier, because I didn't have like a business plan or anything. It just literally was just like, I thought, oh, it would be a cool thing to do, and then it just sort of like kept happening, and people kept asking, "Oh, can you do this? Oh, can you do that?" Blah, blah, blah. Up until like March of this year, I kept trying to stop doing it, and
Just
just
weren't allowed to.
well, yeah, the minute that you stop doing it, and see, this is the thing, like, because I was the only person in Europe that would do it. It's really different to being like a producer. Because if you were like a producer and like, "Oh, I'm stopping production," everyone's just like, "Oh, thank God, there's one less of them." But,
More work for me.
yeah. But if you're the guy who makes the drum heads, like, I just used to get like tons of emails of people being like, "Oh, please, yeah, but before you stop, can you do?" And then you'd be like, "Ah, God, I can't really turn down that money, and I've got the vellum." But anyway, yeah. So earlier this year, 2019, because I don't know when this is coming out.
2 weeks from now.
Okay,
So it'll
Christmas.
be.
Christmas with James and Tins.
That's right.
Yeah.
You should have fucking worn
We
Santa
should have
hats.
Yeah. Yeah, at the beginning part of this year, I had this really kind of stressful thing. Just the heads, with the quality was not where I wanted it to be, and I was thinking of stopping, and I got this phone call from these guys, and they were sort of explaining this drum, or this thing that they wanted to do, and I was just like, "What is this?" And they were like, oh, "Okay, so
It's a 9-sided drum.
well, yeah." So they were like, "We're going to go up to Isla and make a drum out of a whiskey cask for the Lagavulin distillery."
Hold on, but you did that. I saw the
Yeah,
pictures on
I did
Facebook and stuff.
That was
It looked fantastic, man.
Yeah, that was the last one that I was like, okay, so this will be the last one.
Go out with a bang.
Yeah, exactly. And those were always my favorite ones, the ones that were like really weird. You know, like where someone would phone you up and be like, I've got this, you know, I mean, I remember my friend, the fabulous percussionist Matt Whittington, phoning me being like, I've got a 36-inch bass drum. Can you make a head for it? I was like, yeah, sounds cool. But then there's a whole other, you know, can I make a hoop that big? And, you know, all of these things that it suddenly becomes like really interesting. Whereas as much as I really appreciated the kind of custom of people buying heads and stuff, it did start to feel a bit like a factory job where you're just knocking out 14-inch snare heads.
Right.
And I didn't enjoy that, to be honest. And
well, you should have got a lackey, man.
Yeah, but then
it's not your work anymore.
It's not my work, and I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to have... I mean, maybe that just proves how shit a businessman I am, but I just thought you've then got to sort of take responsibility for someone else. It's not the nicest of work, you know. It's quite sort of, I don't know.
Okay. Tedious.
It hurts the hands if you do a lot in a day, because it's quite unnatural the way that you have to do it, and
so your wrists and stuff.
Yeah, your wrists and your elbows and things, and your back, and yeah. So I thought, you know what? I think this will kind of be a nice place to leave it. And it's in their visitor centre. If you ever happen to go to the Lagavulin whiskey,
and
distillery.
you've got plenty of pictures of that on your Facebook.
Well, they made
just go check that out. That's,
they made a video, a feed,
nice.
A video of it. So I thought it would be kind of a fun place to leave it.
Man, fantastic! That is awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah, it was really good fun.
Lagavulin, such good whiskey. Oh,
yeah,
man, I used to love drinking that. Jesus, yeah, it's good stuff. Really good stuff. Nice Lagavulin with a good cigar. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the guys who I went with, Paul and Felipe, they run a company called Rhythm and Booze, that basically is like they're a duo, but they also really know their whiskies, and so they do like these whiskey tasting things, and so that was kind of part of like a wider kind of project thing that they were planning. And yeah, they're really kind of cool guys.
Nice.
They know their stuff.
You just made the kick drum out of the Lagavulin cask.
Yeah.
You didn't make the rest of the drums.
No.
That would have been an interesting project, right?
It would have been. I mean, to be honest with you,
how would you go about making like a snare? You probably just chop it and bind it and glue the hell out of it.
Use the wood. And
you'd have to treat it and also in a certain way or not. Would you?
It would have to be smaller for sure.
I mean, what you can do is like take these vertical slats and cut them, and then just form your snare out of that.
Yeah, I think that's how you would do it. There was some talk of us going to make a floor tom out of a sherry cask, which is smaller, I believe. Paul and Felipe can correct me on that. I can't really remember. Because they use.
Well, there would have been a reason for that because
casks for different things. Again, I'm very much not the expert on that. My expertise was making the whole drum,
making the heads.
Well, no, I made the entire drum.
Right.
Yeah. Because it became sort of apparent from talking to them that they hadn't done that, and I was like, okay, cool, I can help.
Great.
I can make a drum. But yeah, in the meantime, I sort of moved into teaching and lecturing.
So you started at BIMM 2013, did you say? When it was Tech Music School.
Yeah, and then I think it moved, like, because it was bought by the same kind of company. I don't think that's a secret. Hopefully that isn't. But it was bought by a kind of wider company that owned Tech Music and BIMM, and they were like, we want to unify this, and it makes a lot of sense. And
it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And so they did that, and I was kind of in a weird place with the engineering side of things and the drumming things, and quite happy to just move along, and just do different things. And so
it's the spice of life, right?
Yeah,
variety,
for sure.
brother.
for sure. So I was doing, just sort of lecturing. I started doing the diploma stuff, doing Logic and a bit of Ableton, and then moved into teaching on the degree, and now I teach the studio engineering module.
Right, they have one there. No, that's great.
Which I really
have they always had that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Just in the studio, kind of,
Yeah.
miking drums and guitars, and
So
all the fun stuff.
that's where you met Greg Hoffman.
It is where I met Greg Hoffman,
Yeah. What a guy.
What a guy, yeah.
And then on to Seramic.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
For a while.
It was.
But it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was like a period where I ended up doing a lot of drumming again, which is the first I hadn't really played much drums when I was assisting, kind of thing, because I was
busy
doing that. Doing that, and
it's long days, man.
I was kind of really put off it, actually, because I got to meet, like, that was the thing that I always found really fascinating about the assisting, is you kind of get to peek behind the curtain a bit, and you see, like,
the real.
Yeah, I mean, I recorded like really amazing drummers, and the first Cool Session guys I've been able to record, and it was like, I was like, I don't know if I can do that, what they do, and
oh, right, it's a bit intimidating.
And also how difficult that seemed as a kind of way of
making a living.
Even for the guys who were kind of living it, the first Cool kind of guys. It even seemed like, by the point I was doing it, the kind of glory years were 10 years previous, or 15 or 20. So it's like, okay, maybe this isn't a thing to get into.
But the beautiful thing about music and making music and playing an instrument, even if your voice is your instrument, is you can always do that. You can always, like, I mean, I'm quite busy myself, but I still enjoy picking up my guitar and knocking out a song and recording it and getting involved with it, and then I'll put it there, and I've got it in the file, and it's something that's mine. And I don't have any delusions of grandeur. I've got a job that I really like, and it's been looking after me for a good long time. Everything else I do is for me. And I think it enriches just for me personally. Doing all these other things. And to be able to do these other things. And then sometimes I'll put something aside for a while and learn a new skill or try something different. And then, it's just another little feather in your hat, another trick in the bag to have and fall back on. And because, like we said, that end goal might change, by your own volition or not. And I think to have other things to be able to fall back on, not as a fallback, but to be able to do something else as well, and then maybe finding the same enjoyment in doing that as what I currently enjoy in doing what I'm doing. I mean, for this podcast, I'm loving it. I'm having a really good time doing it. And as I said to you before we started this, I think it's enriched my life, a lot. Getting to speak to good friends and great engineers and good musicians, and learning new things about them. Even though we've known each other a little while,
a long time.
A lot of these people I have known a long time, and some of them I haven't known.
Well,
for a long time.
you never kind of.
We never sit down and have this conversation.
Nice to meet you. Here's my life story.
Right.
You never do.
No, it doesn't work out like that.
Because you're like, that guy's an arsehole.
Just wants to talk about himself. Jesus. Right, we get it. Okay, you've had an amazing life, bro. Could you just okay, I'm gonna walk away. No, but I mean, it's how often do we actually get to sit down and have a conversation like this?
Oh, never. Yeah, it's
never.
Cool.
There's always distractions or obligations or this or that, or like I said, the idea kind of came originally as it was going to be me just chatting with my engineer buddies, which I am doing, you
Yeah.
know. But it was more because when we see each other and we're working together, we're working, and then there's never, you know, it'll be you know, talking about work or the, you know, the band that's in, or what we got to do and this and that, and then we get a break between 6 and 7, then we're to the pub, and then it's a chat just you know, about what's going on now, and you never really get to the fucking meat and taters of who this person is. And you know, this kind of brings us out, and like you said, you think about things that you haven't thought about before, or you kind of the chronology just lands in place, and you're like, oh yeah, that's when that happened. This is when, so I, you know, and as Steve Long had said, is like, you know, it's kind of like therapy. You know,
it
you
is
get
a
to
bit.
talk about these things, and
cathartic.
And you know, bring up these old memories, good and bad, you know, and then kind of see how the river of your life kind of went, and you know, and where it's heading,
turns.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess we'd, like, so it would be like
2016, I think it was.
Yeah. So I just the summer before 2015, I sort of ended the assisting thing pretty much, I think. Maybe doing the odd thing. I think, I can't remember. I remember that the Tickle Yard, they sold it to property developers, and so all of those guys in those studios moved to a new place in West Hampstead. And I did one album with Jimmy, and which is a Ward Thomas album there, and I felt like the world's oldest paperboy. Do you know that sketch, that Peter Kay sketch?
No, I don't.
It's like a guy who's like in his, like, I don't know, his 50s. He's still like a paperboy.
Okay.
And I just felt like, this is.
It's not.
I enjoyed it very much, and I always enjoyed it, but I felt like, it just felt like it was like, okay, this is done now. I can move on and do something else. And then, Steve Mackey, had suggested me to play drums for. He produced an album by Danny Goffey from Supergrass, who's the drummer from Supergrass, and he suggested that I play drums for him. And so I started doing that, and so that was like a kind of way in
back into the music,
back into drumming, and that was really interesting because I sort of thought, I don't know, it was an interesting experience. I don't know if I think I was quite conflicted at the time, and I didn't really embrace it in the way that maybe I should have done. But it was so I sort of did that, and then at the same time, my good friend Tim from the band Vessels, who are old friends from Leeds, his partner Elise was having a child, and there was a series of gigs. They had just signed to Pius. There was a series of gigs that they couldn't get out of, and so they'd asked if I would be paternity Tim. So I ended up learning that set, and that was around the same sort of time that Greg had said, oh, you play drums? Oh, well, I've got this thing with this guy Marcus, and there's lots of electronics, and would you be up for doing it? And so I was kind of like, well, yeah, sure,
let's do it.
Not? Yeah, let's do it. And
then the river just went that way.
Yeah, and the river kind of went down that path of like pop drumming, which again wasn't something that I intended.
Would you? I don't think I would class Ceramic as pop, really. What?
I think it was trying to be pop.
You think so?
I think
pop
so.
Funk.
Yeah,
there's a lot of funk in there.
Yeah,
a lot of soul.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic songwriter.
Fantastic.
I love
really,
Ceramic's music. It's just really good. He's such an amazing artist as well. You know, the videos that he directs and stuff. It's well worth checking out.
Really.
I think my favorite one is the one where they do the water ballet.
Oh yeah,
upside down. The whole music. That's just fantastic, phenomenal.
Yeah, it was a really good, interesting experience because I think I'd never really done any like major label-y kind of touring stuff. I'd done lots of stuff
Back of a van.
like, and yeah, like DIY, and I still kind of went with that ethos, be that right or wrong, but it was really interesting kind of to kind of have a peek into that world without, you know, it becoming my life kind of thing.
Right.
But it was definitely interesting for sure.
Yeah, it was it was good. It was a lot of fun. Man, yeah, we had some fun times.
We did.
Some interesting ones. The houseboat, that
my God.
owner that was just shouting at you and Greg.
Yeah, he was an angry,
for making a cup of tea.
an angry dude for sure.
Yeah, and we got trapped in a riot. We went to go have a drink afterwards. Yeah, Marcus and myself and Layla was with us, and what was the BB?
Was
the
it
other
Steph?
One? Steph.
Yeah.
She was with us as well, and we went to go have a drink afterwards. And
Me and
then
Greg were being antisocial.
And then we stopped at a coffee shop, and what had happened was, at 1 o'clock, basically everything stopped. And there were a bunch of people in town that didn't want.
Shit.
They didn't want the party to stop. So they were like kind of rioting, and the police came on horseback. And this crowd, we're just trying to get out, you know, of this massive crowd. And the more we're trying to get out, the more people are pushing us in. And then the police, about 6 of them on horseback, starts charging into the fucking crowd, right, to disperse these people. And we're just like, man, we're gonna get trod on.
Yeah.
How do we get out? We just want to get out, please. Somebody take me home. And we finally wormed our way out and walked around because we were allowed to be there. We stayed there.
Yeah.
The problem is because it's a lot of the people stay in sort of like out of town, and the party's over now, and it's a residential town. People want to fucking, you know, the festival's gonna be there again tomorrow, so you know, you've had your fun. Now get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And the people didn't like that very much, and they was like, fuck the police chanting, and like people throwing things. I'm like, man, we're gonna get murdered.
I had no idea.
And so then we got back to the botel, and you'd send us this message. We're like, fuck this, we're gonna sleep in the van, man.
Yeah.
And luckily eventually he came back. But some long drives and
that houseboat dude was like, he was so like, he was weird.
Just aggressive.
Because we were staying, it was us and the American band Lucius, which I love, amazing band. We didn't really get to hang out with them though, which is such as touring.
Yeah.
They were staying on the same houseboat. And they were all like American and keen, and me and Greg were just grumpy and wanted a cup of tea. And the dude was just really angry. I didn't know that there was a riot. I do remember the next day you telling us that you'd seen like 2 people having sex on a...
Dude, right. So we come back from the coffee shop. Now we're sitting on the top deck of this botel. About 6 I think the Lucius guys came up as well. Right. Yeah. So there's about 7 or 8 of us. And I bought a few joints, so that's what we do. And in the pier, right, there was this concrete walkway, because the boats come in and then they moor there, and there's this fucking that kind of goes all the way across with lamps every here and there, and this couple walks up to underneath one of these lights, and I mean it's walled, but the wall isn't very high. It's like just kind of stop you from walking into the sea. And they start kissing, and it's people are gonna kiss, it's fine. And then it starts sort of like progressing, and then next thing she's down on her knees, and we're just like, is this for real? Like, what's in this? Yeah. And we're all just sort of like, this is actually happening. And people start commenting and like cheering, and these guys are they just kept on going, and it was about 45 minutes that it.
Good on them.
This whole, and it went all out. It finished and everything. And
Was there applause at the end?
there was applause and cheering. We were all just sitting there. The funniest thing. That was one of the weirder days.
Yeah, there was some definitely weird days.
But it's weird. Like, they were under the light. Wouldn't there be some kind of law against that?
Obviously not in Holland.
Just proper public fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe that's the only way that he can get it up.
Yeah.
Get
Not
people with some
ideal in
weird
the winter
kinks,
time.
No, it's not. This was winter as well, wasn't it? It was January? Or was this the one we did in the summer? This is the one we did in the summer.
Yeah.
The Falco Festival.
Good memory. Yeah, because we did another one that was
Eurosonic in Groningen.
Eurosonic.
And that's,
I was trying to
that's
remember
in January.
what that was called yesterday.
Eurosonic.
Yeah, that was.
That's a good
cool.
festival. That's a cool festival.
That was the one where you had to get the hotel manager to break into the hotel room because we'd driven there straight, and I'd done a lot of driving.
Yeah.
Because I like driving.
Yeah. We basically shared it between the two of us.
And I'd got there, I was really knackered, and I was like, I'm just going to go and have a lie down for a minute, and then I fell asleep with the van keys and the hotel keys.
I remember that.
It would have been really funny had I fallen.
Didn't I walk to the hotel to get the keys to get the van because we had some stuff in the van?
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Oh, we had ourselves some adventures, man. That was fun.
That we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, it's in the moment sometimes it seems like a bit much, but looking back on it, it's all good. You gotta embrace the good and the bad.
Yeah.
To kind of just round it all out.
I think for me at that time though, one of the things that it's interesting you talk about the journey and kind of things, and like when I was maybe 20, like my second year of uni, which would have been 2007, I was really bummed out with it because I really didn't enjoy. I wanted to I really liked the idea of like a band mixing electronics, and it always felt like bands would have like, it would feel like the electronics were like on top of it. And then it was right around the time that Battles came out with this album Mirrored, and they toured, and it was the first band that I saw that were like
full immersion.
Yeah, that did it kind of like, it was like a eureka moment for me, and I love that band so much. And years later, like 10 years later,
so yeah, it took another 10 years for that to come to fruition.
Vessels, when I was playing drums, the 4 gigs that I played drums for them, the last one was opening for Battles, and that was like a real kind of, because like, so that band was kind of, it's a horrible phrase, but like a super group kind of thing. Like, so the drummer he used to play in Helmet,
right,
in the 90s, and the guitarist, the 2 guitarists, one of them was in Don Caballero, which I really loved as a band, and the other one was in a band called Lynx, a great kind of math rock, post rocky kind of band. And I think obviously seeing them as like a 21-year-old, not really knowing how anything kind of works, and then sort of seeing behind the curtain of that, of the reality of that, of like getting there and you're like, oh, this dude is carrying his own drums, and like he's actually, with the greatest respect in the world, old.
Right. Right.
And it was just like, fuck, I don't want to do that.
Am I going to have to do that when I'm...
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Drums are really annoying.
Yeah, you got to have a car.
Well, but you still got to carry them in.
You still got to get, It's a few bags, if you think about 5 shells, if that's what you do, some guys have more.
Yeah.
And then cymbal, the fucking traps case.
Yeah.
All your sticks, cymbals. Cymbals are fucking heavy, man.
Yeah.
And it's drummers and percussionists, I think, have the hardest life, and probably like vibraphonists. My God, mate.
Yeah.
Jesus, I had to put a marimba together the other day for the first time. Just arrived at work, and there's 12 cases. And no instructions. It's like, there you go. But I think I succeeded. I put it together the right way the first time, which is
Cool.
which is great. And the guy came in and was like, "Wow, I've never seen that done before in one try." I'm like, "Great, fantastic,
Nice.
makes me feel good." Yeah, it's such a massive instrument, but so beautiful. I love the wood tones,
The low
as
notes.
opposed to the super low notes with those nice big rectangular
Slabs.
Yeah, fucking beautiful, man.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I definitely prefer the wood tone over the vibraphone
Okay.
sort of metally thing.
Yeah.
It's just personal, as I don't like the trumpet really, but I like the flugelhorn.
Yeah. Bit
Just
mellower.
as a sound.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you've got to have the bendy sex whistle in there. It's it's good. No, it's with jazz. Yeah, it's I've definitely myself progressed in sort of music and appreciation, and when I was growing up, it was all just rock and roll and metal, and everything can fuck right off.
Yeah.
And now I've definitely expanded the horizons, and quite fortunately, I've landed where I did.
Yeah.
And I'm still sort of like wiping the sleep out of my eyes, and is this real?
That's
All
good.
the time. Very, very grateful for having been given the opportunities that I have.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
To be where we
Sure.
are, and to be part of this wonderful world, where sometimes it's hard work. Like you said, you've just described the whole proper, gone out and slogged it, and just fucking just worked your way to getting where you are.
Yeah.
And it's a thing, and not everybody has the determination and the stamina to see it through.
Yeah.
And I think that when there's something to salute and to
I do
to
think
appreciate.
I'm irritatingly stubborn.
Stubbornness sometimes is a good thing, and
Which is
sometimes not so
sometimes a
much.
good thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's fine. But yeah, I kind of realised that I didn't want to be a touring drummer.
Yeah.
Um,
I got you, man. Yeah,
it's not for me, and I think there's a lot of really wonderful people that do it anyway, and that's fine. They can do it.
yeah,
I want to be in a studio and
yeah. Have you ever sort of done any live engineering?
never.
Never.
No.
You're not interested in that at
No.
all. No, you
No,
just
not
you
at
want to
all.
do the studio thing. And that's
Yeah,
it.
it's the kind of, I think a big part of my enjoyment of music comes from listening to records, not necessarily going to gigs.
Mm.
And I think I like the kind of visceral experience of live music, of playing with a band, especially when it it has a kind of physical effect to it, like a volume or something, and or it kind of it affects you in a way. But I haven't ever thought about doing
No.
live engineering, and I understand the mechanics of it, but I think it's a kind of different skill set.
It's a different
to certain
discipline,
extent.
yeah, for sure, yeah.
And
There's
it's
more
okay,
immediacy
the
to it.
frequencies are the same, but
Yeah, there's more immediacy to it. There's
there
more
is,
sort of
yeah.
like- and there's no take two. It's just a take one all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, which is probably good. I mean, I do think
I enjoy that element probably.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that draws me to it.
as a studio engineer, I'm pretty quick because that was Emre. His thing was very much like speed and like being the fastest guy on Pro Tools, being the, being really efficient, like putting a mic up and being like not overthinking something and just getting it done. That was very much his thing. And so I do have that, like I'm not like kind of
Pottering about forever deciding.
no, not at all. But in making albums with people, I do like to have the opportunity of time and like, let's really make the best thing.
So, do you get involved in the creative process a little bit, producing? I suppose it depends on who you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not they're gonna allow you into their world.
Yeah, I. So there's lots of different approaches of production. in the studio. I really like the Steve Albini kind of approach, which is like hands off. Like I do is record and record it well. And I kind of try to take a bit of that, but I also think in some ways it's quite nice to kind of go like, oh, if we added
if we try this,
but then being kind of completely open to the fact that someone might turn around and go, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And like the album that I guess I'm producing it. I'm doing at the minute that I'm working on with a guy called Diego Phillips. He sort of lets me go down the rabbit hole a bit, and then it's his album, right. He will obviously, he's very specific with what he wants, but there's things where, like, if I want to build a chorus, I might add a guitar or that kind of stuff, okay. or like just things, but I'm not like...
Let you touch the pan fader, the pan pot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I think it should be a discussion. I don't like that idea that like the engineer is always right. I always thought that was kind of
That's absolutely,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some people, they do think like that.
Yeah.
And you get it in the live world as well, where...
For sure.
The people are even condescending towards musicians. You see that and you're like, hang on, man. This isn't your gig. This is their gig.
Yeah.
And...
But I think having a discussion and being honest with people about your intentions, like I never do like a DFA fader, because I just think that's kind of a shitty thing to do.
Oh, I kind of do.
Do you?
In the live, yeah, 100%.
But you've got a time limit.
It's not so much in regards to the musicians, but as to the customers.
Okay.
There's... When a musician has a request, I'll honor it.
Yeah.
Because the way I see my role is I'm here to help them do their job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And everybody that's here came to see them do their job.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to do my best to make their job as easy as I can.
Yeah.
And also try and make it sound as good as I can.
Yeah.
For me and for everybody else. And then also for them, because it reflects back on them. But,
sure.
It also... I always take every day, every gig as an audition for my job. Right.
Yeah.
I look at it like that, and then I'm not going to go into anything sort of like, this is haphazard or just sort of like half-assed into something.
Fuck it.
Yeah. No, yeah. I don't think that that's a good place to start.
Not.
But there has been times when maybe somebody's not quite as knowledgeable as they think they are, or they're saying things that don't quite make sense, and then for those people. There's a lot of psychology involved as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Where you have to be diplomatic about something, and you have to also be as professional as you can be, even though sometimes people lose their cool. Musicians do that. They're stressed out. They've got whatever, or maybe that somebody's just been shining a light up their arsehole for way too long, and you get that. And the secret is in trying to gauge them in the first sort of moments and seeing how you're going to deal with them.
Yeah.
But the DFA fader is really just for the people who wear sunglasses indoors. And there's only two kinds of people that wear sunglasses indoors, right? Blind people and assholes.
Yeah. I don't record those people.
No, I'm only kidding. But it's kind of a rule that's held true for the majority of it. Now you get nice people that wear sunglasses indoors that aren't blind, but.
Edgar Davids.
Yeah, there was a trumpet player in the other day. Super nice guy, young guy, amazing trumpet player. And yeah, he's just like I'm a jazz guy, he's a New Yorker, and but for customers mainly.
Yeah.
Because there's always like the pianist's dad, or the saxophone player's wife, or the guitarist's girlfriend, or just some guy who thinks I've had. There's one guy come up to me once and just started the gig, sort of second song in. We'd had a successful sound check. I was very happy with it. The band was very happy with the sound. And normally in the first song, I'm sort of like, still settling the butterflies a bit, making
Yeah.
sure everything's good, regardless of whether or not I've had a successful sound
Sure.
check. And I sort of sat down and I'm like, okay, I'm happy with it. Sounds good. Sweet. The guy comes, he's like, oh, I think you need to turn the piano up. I just sort of lean out and I'm like, I disagree.
Yeah.
You know, I can hear it. It sits in the mix.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. No, but you really need to turn the piano up. I used to do your job, and you know, I know a thing or two about what I'm saying,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I respectfully disagree, and also, why aren't you doing it anymore?
I mean, that's the thing that you never have to do as a studio engineer,
No.
because I mean, unless there's kind of a manager or some kind of situation like that,
That's sort of like hovering.
there will never be that situation. I don't think.
Because you have time to discuss something and you talk it over.
Yeah,
and,
you can always try something like that out, and then.
But also, I mean, I suppose the changes that you make, they're all reversible as well.
Yeah.
You know, if
Yeah,
something's
pretty
been
much.
recorded down, you've got a good recording of something, and then you go and try something, and they're like, no, I don't think it. Come on, Zed. Come on,
Yeah.
Zed. Come on, Zed. How's it now? You know, so I think, yeah, and also having the time to discuss it. And there's never an audience there.
No.
That,
No, never.
you know, in the smaller places, 225 people who've each got their own opinion.
Yeah.
And the majority of the time we're lucky that they all have the same opinion as we do. But sometimes there's people who have a different opinion, and, you know, be that as it may. I always try and take it on board, regardless of what it is or how it's delivered. You know, after I've told this guy to fuck off in the nicest possible way, I will then, you know, sit down and reevaluate a little bit myself. Miles taught me this sort of like trick to checking your mix, and the balance of it is, you know, looking at the stage and then looking at each musician in turn, and then that way you focus your ears on that part of the mix, whether it's above, whether it's below,
That's like
whether
a
it
reverse.
sits. But what I do is I close my eyes
Yeah.
and then I think of the instrument,
Okay.
and then I listen to it in regards to the mix, you know, how it is, and I'll just do that. I mean, I cross-check that once, twice, every gig I do. I just close my eyes for a bit, concentrate. Yep, it's good, happy. I mean, if it's on the 4th or the 5th day of this gig, then I kind of know it's, you know, this is how it is. I don't need to reference back, but
It's the McGurk effect,
right,
is what you're describing.
okay,
Which is where your brain is hardwired to be more focused on your eyes than your ears.
mm-hmm.
And there's this test where this guy, he just says bar, but he moves his lips in a very accentuated way that your brain tells you that he's saying far,
Really,
and your brain hears far, but he's saying bar.
right,
And that's the DFA fader, but it's also the same as, like, if you look at something, your brain will
focus on
focus
that.
in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why if you mix something with video, it's actually way easier, because you can, the balance is way easier to set and things like that. And I don't know, it's interesting stuff. The mind is a
Yeah, it's
funny thing.
it is a funny thing, man. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, man. I have enjoyed this very much.
It's been fun.
It has been fun.
Yeah.
And we should do this again.
We should.
For sure.
Well, we've only just got up to studio stuff.
Yes,
but
we have. Yeah, we have. Unfortunately, I've got a few things, and I've got a gig later on, so I got to start
me too.
skedaddling.
I've also got a dash.
yeah, you're teaching at BIMM
We've
today.
got like a kind of meeting-y kind of thing, and
Great.
yeah, I'm doing all of that, and
And then
making records.
on to Christmas. When do you guys break for Christmas?
We've broken.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
now I'm just on the
Admin stuff.
admin stuff, catching up with other stuff. I'm mixing an album at the minute, so it's just basically doing that. And kind of
Fantastic.
getting on with that and doing
Nice.
some mastering and other little bits and bobs.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll
Fingers in
put on
pies.
we'll put up some links to your studio and all the social media that you're happy to share and all
Yeah,
that. I'll
man.
put that in the description. And then they can get in contact with you. You know, maybe somebody's got some
They
interesting
can
things
send
for
me
drum
emails
heads or
to tell
whatever.
me my mixes are shit.
Ah,
I do have one
don't
good
do
story.
that. Be nice.
I
Tell
do
me,
have one great
please.
story to finish it off. When my old band, Pattern Theory, were playing in a place in Freiburg in Germany, and after the gig, so we had this idea that we were going to try and make like post-rock meets Steely Dan. So we bought these silver sparkly suits, which we thought were fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Because post-rock is quite sort of, it's very serious, takes it very seriously. So when we wrote these kind of cool tracks and stuff, and we played this gig, and so afterwards I'm like taking a piss at the urinal, and this guy finishes, looks over, and he goes, "Oh, you're the drummer in that band." I was like, "Yeah, man." And he goes, "Fucking shit."
What?
And then proceeded to give me like this list of like where we had got music wrong.
Right. And you're like, you're a fucking moron because you don't get that this was irony.
No, I was just like, cool, man, that's fine.
Brilliant. Yeah, man, just be nice.
Yeah,
just
I
be
love
nice.
people.
Oh, I had one the other night where this woman, and the sound was fine. It wasn't the best. It was a, but I could hear the vocal quite loudly.
Sure.
The guy didn't come for soundcheck. His band came, but the vocalist didn't come.
Classic.
And so afterwards, this woman come up to me. It's like, I just want to tell you that the sound was really awful. It was really bad. And I'm like, well, I'm really sorry that you had a bad experience. What was wrong with the sound? Because I mean, there were 200 other people up and dancing.
Yeah.
Right. Having a good time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so what was wrong? I just couldn't hear the vocals, and it was just really bad. And I'm like, so where were you sat? She's like, over there, like points in front of me somewhere. I said, well, I'm behind you, and I heard the vocals very clearly. I heard everything, every word he said, and I saw 200 people dancing for the whole 90-minute show. It's like, yeah, but it's just really bad. It just so awful. And then my steak knife wasn't the right knife to cut my meat with. And I'm like, right. Thank you. I'm sorry you had a bad experience, but I got to go. Bye.
Yeah.
Just like, come on, man. What was the point of that? Yeah. Everybody's got their own opinions. But
everybody has their own opinion.
And I don't know what she was gaining from that.
People love it.
Yeah.
I've had so many times people have come up to me afterwards and said, you put a mix out. Oh, I listened to your mix. Oh, it'd be... okay, cool. Whatever.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
Thanks.
Great. Well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Just give them the Big Lebowski and everything will be all right.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Just move on. Exactly.
Yeah, man. Right, lovely. Thank you very much
place to finish it.
for coming.
Thank
and
you.
we will definitely do this again, but
Thank
it's
you for the
probably
build
going to be
time.
somewhere in April at the moment if we do
Oh my
get
word.
back.
Yeah.
Booked up. So,
You'll have to
more of
come
these
and
to
do
come.
it at my studio.
Sure, man. We'll do that. We'll bring the cameras along
Bring
and
the cameras.
do a little expo.
Yeah, man.
Sweet.
Totally.
Hey, man. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Right, well, there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I have. A lot of interesting, fun stories from that, and hopefully I can get James back again. I will be posting the links in the description box, so if you want to get a hold of James and have a look at all the things that he does that are interesting and stay up to date with him, you can do that. Also, I'll be posting links to my social media accounts where you can get in contact with me if you want to. If you don't want to, they're still there. Also, I started a Patreon page. If you like what you see and you want to help the cause, head over to patreon.com/HeySoundGuy. There you can help the cause. Otherwise, like, share, do what it is that you do. Get the word out there. Thank you very much. Till next time.